Welcome to Mad Props. We have an amazing episode for you today. Tab Murphy, screenwriter of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Atlantis, Tarzan, Batman Year One. I saw he was with Teen Titans Go. There's a Scooby-Doo show. He's part of a lot of different things, screenwriter for a lot of different things. It's coming up right after this. This podcast is brought to you by Audible. For some of you, it's still fireplace season. For me, down here in Dallas, Texas, it was 80 degrees the other day. Whether it's fireplace season or laying by the pool season, Audible is a great thing to have. It takes the book from reading in your hands to putting in your ears. For me, I'm sitting by the pool, I'm closing my eyes, and I'm diving deep into a great book. With Audible.com, you can bring thousands of books right to your fingertips and right to your ears wherever you are, whether you're on a run, walking the dogs, working, you need something in the background. Audible can bring it to you in that wasted time where you're editing and can't listen to anything or can't read a book. You get to listen to it in the background. Head to audibletrial.com/Schnabel Studios to get your 30-day free trial of Audible now. That's audibletrial.com/SCHNABEL Studios to get your free trial of Audible. I'm currently listening to a marketing book. It's really opening my eyes on different things marketing that I still didn't know. I work in social media, I work in video, and there's things I didn't even know. You can also get into learning and knowledge with audible.com. audibletrial.com/Schnabel Studios today. This podcast is also brought to you by the Curiosity Box by Vsauce. Listen, I am naturally a curious person. My curiosity is off the charts right now with this whole planet alignment thing. I know it was a little while ago. I know it's not still active. You can still see some of the planets, but I just saw images people took with telescopes of it, and my brain was fried. I didn't realize that it was real. I couldn't comprehend that it was real. It was very strange to me. But anyway, you don't have to be like me with my mind melting out of curiosity. With the Curiosity Box by Vsauce, you can maintain that curiosity with many great things that are going to come to you monthly. Right now with the annual pass, you can get the Body Card Deck. It is a deck of cards with different parts of the human body, and when you take a card off, it shows you something else until you take apart the entire body. It's a big fan favorite, and it's right now included with the annual Curiosity Box. You can also get a water bottle. It tells you how much water is the weight of a human heart. Why do you need that? Maybe you're wondering how much it weighs. Maybe you're wondering if you could drink a human heart. Boom, right there in the Curiosity Box. Head to the-curiosity-box.pxf.io today /Schnabel Studios. Don't forget that to get your Curiosity Box today. That's the-curiosity-box.pxf.io /Schnabel Studios. You can get your Curiosity Box today. Stop wondering what all the fuss is about and build that curiosity. The Curiosity Box by Vsauce, the-curiosity-box.pxf.io /Schnabel Studios. Finally, this podcast is brought to you by Schnabel Studios. Whether it's great podcasts like Mad Props and Sketching Up, or great videos like Mic'd Ups and other sporting events, Schnabel Studios has it all. Head to schnabelstudios.com to see everything that Schnabel Studios can bring to you, and you can even request a quote for yourself to get a video done for you, whether it's a big concert that you want to make sure people see, a huge event that you've been planning for months, or maybe it's just the first time you're going up to bat and you want to have that memory forever. Hit up Schnabel Studios and they can help you bring those memories to life. SchnabelStudios.com also has podcasts such as this one, Mad Props, and Sketching Up on there as well. And you can listen to every episode in whatever order you want. It's right there. You can also head to youtube.com/Schnabel Studios to catch everything new from Schnabel Studios. Right now, and last week was the Super Bowl, we have Dak Prescott mic'd up from his youth camp. It is doing really well because people are loving him or hating him. I actually don't know what the difference from the people is right now because he's the Cowboys quarterback, so people don't really like him as much. I think he's a great dude. But you can go watch that right now. Dak Prescott mic'd up. It is on the Schnabel Studios YouTube page, youtube.com/Schnabel Studios right now. You can also catch old episodes of Mad Props. We've had Matt Hill on. We've had Chris Standiford on, Andy Smith. We've had a lot of really good guests to start the new year. You don't want to miss any of them. Head over to youtube.com/Schnabel Studios to catch everything Schnabel Studios right now. Last week, we also had we predicted the commercials for the Super Bowl, and then we gave the list. It's in the bio of it as well. You don't want to miss that one. That one actually, I think, is one of our more entertaining ones we've had in a while, so you definitely don't want to catch that. SchnabelStudios.com or youtube.com/Schnabel Studios. You can also follow us online at Schnabel Studios on Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, LinkedIn, and again, subscribe to us on YouTube. You follow this podcast on Instagram and Facebook at Mad Props Pod on both of them, and get everything Mad Props today. All right. So we have Tab Murphy on. I'm very excited to talk to him. As you may notice, it's still just me after all this. No Hannah today, no producer Hannah, no Matt today, no producer Matt. They both are not available for this. Actually, Matt's still in Alaska. If you are a Sketching Up fan, you already knew he's in Alaska. If you're not, he's been in Alaska for a little bit now, and he's still there, so he was not able to join on this one, and Hannah was not able to join either. So it's just me producing and talking and all that fun stuff today on the episode. I'm not going to go too long, but I do want to bring up something I have strong opinions on, and that's the new Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show. Now, on Sketching Up, 2 episodes ago, we did talk about the first 2 episodes of this show. And I do think it's entertaining and stuff like that. But a very quick point I want to make, because there's been a lot of hate for it online, and that's what we're going to get into right now. Okay. So my overall thought on this show is I really, really enjoy it. Now, people that know me, I'm a huge Spider-Man guy. He's my favorite superhero. I have Spider-Man all over my room, although in the back of me right now, if you're watching, there is no Spider-Man, which I just realized. We'll have to change that in the future. But I'm a huge Spider-Man guy. Well, I went into this with very low expectations. I was very worried about what they were going to do with Spider-Man in this show. So I was like, uh-oh, here we go. All right, let's see what they're going to do. I am now 5 episodes in. The new episodes just dropped today, so I haven't seen them yet. So I'm 5 episodes in. First 2, then they drop 3. I am really enjoying this show. Does it have its flaws? Of course it has its flaws. It's going to have its flaws. But they are taking a story that I already love, and they're kind of manipulating it in a way that I don't think is that bad. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I can't believe the Osborns are black, or I can't believe they're introducing all the villains in the first 3 episodes. And they're just building, though. Like, you got to be able to build. But anyway, the story that they've done and the direction that they have gone, I think has been really good. I think it's been really entertaining. But the biggest thing to me is that it's keeping me locked in. Okay, so whatever your opinion is, are you watching still? If you're not watching still, that's whatever. But I have been locked into every episode. I like the way they're going with Lonnie already. I'm not going to spoil anything because I didn't say spoilers earlier, and this is not that type of episode right now. I like the way they're going with Lonnie. I still, and I said this on that episode of Sketching Up, like, the voice acting for Spider-Man has not been my favorite. I think Yuri, the one that does the video game, has been probably my favorite, like, out of everybody. But he does a good enough job, and he quips good enough to where it's okay. Anyway, overall, I'm really enjoying the show. I think if you are a Spider-Man fan, you should definitely check out the show. And and even the comments, maybe even, like, what is it so big that people are so down on? Like, I just think the show is not that bad. I think it's pretty good, and I get they're going a different direction. I still don't like that Uncle Ben was gone before the show even starts. It's not my favorite direction anyone's ever taken. But overall, I'm really enjoying the show. Anyway, I'm not going to go too deep into it because I want you guys to go watch it yourself. Plus, we have Tab Murphy waiting, big animation screenwriter. He's done a lot of really big things. Hunchback of Notre Dame. He's done Atlantis. He's done Tarzan. He's done a lot of DC. He's done a lot of really good stuff. And I don't want to take up too much time. I want to get into his interview. So, tell me what you think about Spider-Man, but then let's transition on over and roll the credits, because this is Mad Props.
I kind of looked at some of your podcasts, and you do a lot of sports, which is cool.
Yeah,
I mean, you know.
I've worked basically my whole career in sports. I currently work in sports. I live in Dallas. I'm working with the United Football League right now.
Oh, no kidding.
So I'm working with them. Before that, I was working. I've worked with soccer teams. When we met, I was at Spoke. It was in Spokane, and you were. It was the what did they call the Comic-Con there? But I met you there because I
Lake
was at
City.
Gonzaga at the time.
Was it Lake City?
Was it Lake City?
Maybe.
It's something like
So we've met
close.
before, dude?
We've met before, and this is a perfect place to start. So you were telling me a little off air, like you started doing a lot more podcasts because you've become a big celebrity in the pandemic. But I didn't bring you on because of that. I brought you on because we've met before, and I've always meant to reach back out, and that's my wrongdoing. I am very bad at communication. But then eventually I was like, this is who I need to reach out to, and that's why I reached out to you. I didn't even know you became this big celebrity outside of it.
And to be, no offense, dude, don't take it personally. I don't remember meeting you.
No,
I just don't remember because I'm old now and I forget a lot of shit. But I've also been doing.
But when you do all those types of things, I am not upset with it. Trust me, the amount of people I've met and don't remember me, I can make a buck. So
I mean, I barely remember Lake City. I mean, so there you go. I mean, so
hey, better than me. I don't remember the name of it at all. I just remember it's in Spokane because I was there.
Yeah, no, that actually was a fun weekend because there were a lot of families, and I really had a great time. And that's part of that whole, since the pandemic, I've been invited to some of these cons, and I really enjoy it not because I want people to, buy posters or any of that stuff. I really love hearing the stories because they come up and they all have a story about the movies, in particular the Disney movies that I wrote, what those movies meant to them growing up or going through a difficult time in their life or whatever. And I just thought, that's really cool to be able to hear that as a creator, that you've worked on things that have made an impact in people's lives. Is just it's rather addicting, I guess.
Yeah.
But I tell people all the time, I was a big movie nerd growing up. And if I had access to a creator back in those days, I'd be just as crazy wanting to, meet them or, tell them this movie changed my life or so I have a lot of empathy to the fans of those movies. And whenever I get invited to go and show up, I try to, because it's not just for me, it's for them. It's very cathartic.
Yeah. We've had a lot of people that do the cons and stuff like that on this podcast, and I've gotten to meet a lot of people, especially that I enjoy. My favorite thing is meeting people from cartoons or animation that I know and kind of talk, like if somebody's come on the podcast or I have a connection, like talking to them about that person and like kind of learning more, not only about that person I already know, but the relationship and stuff like that. Because I'm a big animation fan, huge animation fan. Especially that I actually really like the more modern, like I like the new age Cartoon Network stuff, like 2010's Adventure Time, regular showing on. I'm a 90s kid, so obviously I like all the Hanna-Barbera and stuff like that, Scooby-Doo, all those types of things. But I really think the direction that animation went in, where it wasn't just like slapstick and trying to get comedy, but there's a story behind it where you can come back to it as an adult and still really enjoy it, which you know a lot about, because when you talked about Disney, the movies that you worked on with Disney, the not the background, but like the interlocking story was a little darker than some of the stuff that was coming out in the Disney at that time, and you really worked into not only for kids but adults. So do you feel it gives it more rewatchability when you do something like that, I guess is what I'm getting at?
Well, I mean, Disney, first of all, Disney's great at doing what they do, taking their products and making sure that the entire world is saturated with them. So the rewatching and creating an aura, especially for a new generation of young kids growing up with the movies, of these are the movies that are going to define your childhood as you get older. These are the ones you're going to remember. I mean, they're just masters at that. And I was in the right place at the right time in the 90s because that very early in the 90s was the beginning of the renaissance of Disney animation that lasted for about
Yep.
15 years. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel very fortunate and very lucky that I got to work on the 4 movies that I wrote during that period. I spent 12 years at Disney, and I spent 12 years writing movies that I never, ever in a million years thought I'd be writing, dude. Because I was all about, I want to be a serious screenwriter. My whole focus was on live action. I'd already gotten an Academy Award nomination early in my career for Gorillas in the
Mm-hmm.
Mist. So I thought my path was this. This is where I'm going to be. So as a consequence, Disney kept reaching out to me to come in and see what they were doing in the world of animation. And I just had this really stupid prejudice that it was kids' movies. And I did not want to write kids' movies. So I
Yeah.
have the dubious distinction of having turned down Toy Story and a few others that I won't mention. But
It's okay
and
because
I've
it
talked
leads to
about
where you
this
are now,
before.
right?
Well, yeah, I've talked about this before. Especially in a business now that's evolving and ever changing in Hollywood in the movie business. If you come in or break in, or you're trying to break in with this very narrow lane that you see yourself in, and for most people, it's like, I want to write big movies. It's that romanticism of the red carpet, my movie showing on a big screen premiere, and today that is the last thing I would encourage somebody to. I'm not saying don't write movies, but I would say, you really need in this climate to be open to wherever storytelling takes you.
Yeah.
I mean, whether
Yeah.
it's a
Swiss Army
YouTube
knife.
series, whether it's yeah, exactly. Because good storytelling is still good storytelling. And these days there are so many content providers that if you just say, I'm going to stay in this narrow little lane and keep banging my head against that concrete, brick wall of big feature film, I want to write Marvel movies or whatever, I think, you're going to find that opportunities are going to pass you by that may lead you to something you never thought of. And that's what was Disney for me. I kept saying,
Yeah.
no, because I thought I don't want to do that because that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for this. And when I finally, took my head out of my ass and went in for a meeting, it changed my life.
Yeah. And you still get to, like you said, you were like, I don't want to do kids movies, don't want to do kids movies. But like we just said, you were able to still kind of make a narrative that can go towards anyone, not just kids, with Disney, because the reason they're so nostalgic and so great is because they don't only serve kids, they serve adults with their stories. There's a storyline an adult can enjoy, and that's why there's so many adults that love Disney, even though they're cartoons and stuff like that.
But you're absolutely right about that. And I was also, again, very lucky because even though I had this sort of prejudice against writing, like fluffy talking animals and dancing this and, fairy dust and princesses, the movies I got to write, the movies I got to work on at Disney, all 4 of them in their own way were not of the same template that when we think of Snow White and we think of those kinds of movies, I came into the studio at a time when they were really trying to push the envelope to do something different. And Hunchback, of course, is the prime example of how much different they were trying to sort of look at storytelling and try things on that they wouldn't have tried on necessarily in the old days. And so I feel very fortunate. I got to write Hunchback, and that was a character that I already knew. I mean, I was a monster kid of the 60s, dude. I grew up collecting famous monsters of filmland. And so, the story of Quasimodo and Esmeralda I was very familiar with, like from the age of 9, because I knew I was a big fan of Lon Chaney Sr. I was a big fan of, so I was just aware of that story, the sort of the tragic elements of that story. So when that meeting, that very first meeting ended, and they said, we're also trying to figure out if there's something in here being Victor Hugo's massive novel. It just like, this is why I'm here. I said, I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So is maybe lift the curtain on that process a little bit, because a lot of those movies in the Renaissance were stories that were recreated for Disney. So when you go in knowing this story already, did they go, we want to find something from here, we want you to put your twist on it and make it a little more Disney friendly? Because some of those stories are very changed to where they were a lot darker, and other ones are kind of following the same path. So what is that process like when they bring you in for this?
Well, in terms of the Hunchback, it's almost the complete opposite of what you just described, which shocked me. I was expecting them to say, okay, Hunchback of Notre Dame, great piece of literature, world literature. So we need to, they did say we need to discover if there's a Disney animated movie in this book somewhere. That's your job for us to figure out if there is. And they gave me a checklist of lots of boxes that had to be checked off before they would move forward on a project. At the same time, so I'm like going, wow, I love this story, but if they're going to turn it into what we think of as Disney, is like, oh, everybody's happy and it's songs and, oh, there's a villain, but they, like I said, I was just really concerned about that. And to Disney's credit, they were great. They said, look, we know what we're asking you to do. We know what the material is. We know how adult it can be. You write the story you want to write, knowing that, of course, we're Disney, but you write the story you want to write, and we'll worry about our brand. And so they gave me license to really just kind of forget about, singing and dancing and, not that I knew it was going to be a musical. That really wasn't my, that wasn't my lane. My lane was, give us a story that, that we can turn into a Disney animated musical. And so that was great, because there was a lot of freedom I was given to try things on and keep certain themes and push the envelope. And I don't know when the last time you watched that movie, but dude, we got away with murder in that movie. Seriously, we got away with shit I thought would never fly. Send it up the flagpole, it's going to come crashing back down saying, no, cut it out, take this out. Never came back down the flagpole.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because we've had a Disney creator on before, Darren Nefsey, and she kind of said the same thing with her show Star vs. Force of Evil. Is like, when we would try to push things, sometimes like we'd expect it to come back and we'd have a plan B ready to go, and then it wouldn't come back. Like, they're like, yeah, go with it, go with it.
What does this mean? Does this mean like we get to have it? I'll tell you, a funny story, and I've told this story before, that there was a defining moment for me when I realized just how much we were going to be able to get away with on Hunchback. Alan Menken and Steve Schwartz had already been, sort of like hired. They were doing the music and the lyrics and the songs. And I remember being in a meeting with Kirk and Gary were the directors, Don Hahn was the producer, and a little envelope came in, like overnight envelope. And in it was a cassette. That's how old this is. It was a cassette. And it was a song that would eventually become Hellfire. And it was the first iteration that Steve and Alan had done. Alan on piano, Steve was singing, and we were all excited because we knew I had written basically a monologue for Frollo in that scene. The scene was exactly, it would go across the city, go into his room, and what I'd written was a tortured monologue. And they came, when they spotted songs, they came to that and said, this is a song. And so we were all kind of like, what's that song going to be about? Because I was writing it, the subtext of lust and desire and anger and, want to kill, I'm going to smite the gypsy and Mesmerelda will be mine and all this shit, And so we were like, what is that song going to sound like? Right. And I remember we retired to somebody's office and they had a cassette player in there. We put it in, we're all sitting around, boom. And Hellfire comes on. Now, if you've heard that song, it's pretty memorable. It's,
Mm-hmm.
a defining moment, not only for the villainy of Claude Frollo, but also for the depth of his depravity. I mean, so this song comes out and it starts playing, and I'm kind of sitting there and I'm kind of glancing around the room, and jaws slowly start to open as this song, continues. And I'll never forget Kirk reached over and he clicked it off at the end. He goes, well, that's never going to make it in the movie. And it did. It
It
did.
does.
Yeah.
And it does.
So that
You
I
just
just thought,
never know what you're going to get with until you do it, right?
So, uh, I guess it was a 25th anniversary of Hunchback was like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. But somebody from the New York Times reached out to me and said, "Hey, we want to do an article on Hunchback. It's the 25th anniversary. Can we talk to you about it?" And I said, sure. And I talked to the girl who called me up, and I'm talking about things we're talking about now. And I said at one point, that is the most R-rated G film you will ever watch. And she said, I'm going to use that as a quote. And so there I am on the New York Times. I was like, this is cool, man. That was awesome.
I bet. You got to put not only the quote, but there was such a good quote. They're like, that's it.
That's it.
We're running with it.
Yeah,
I hope you like it.
That's what they did. And I was like, oh my God, so that was one of those ones where I thought, shit, maybe I said too much. But anyway, but it's true. It is that movie. I mean, to this day, I talk to fans a lot about that movie, and they are sort of divided between being terrified by it and being inspired by it. Terrified by Claude Frollo, the depravity, the lecherousness, and as a child, you don't understand a lot of that stuff, but they rewatch it as they get older, and then they realize, oh my God, what a true creep that guy really is.
Yeah.
And then the inspiration, of course, is Esmeralda and her passion to, fight back against Judge Frollo and his sort of desire to get rid of the gypsies, and she's fighting for her people, she's fighting for justice, and there's a great scene in there that they often quote, and I'm talking about the fans, where she raises her arm, justice, against Claude Frollo, and on the dais there with Quasimodo, and it was a dream to work on that movie for me, and to watch it when it was done, I just was like, wow, I had a small part to play in it, man, because they had 300 other of the most talented people that for 24/7 for 3 years put everything they had into that movie, and it just shows. It's just beautiful. I still love it.
How often do you go back and rewatch like that, or on anything else you've worked on? Do you watch it often? Or are you kind of someone that's like, you watch it once, move on to the next one?
I don't watch it that often. I rewatched Hunchback just because the 25th anniversary was coming up. I hadn't watched it in 20 years, dude. I hadn't watched it in 20 years. And I was just curious if it held up, so it was like watching it for the first time in many ways for me. And so, I disassociate myself from, I wrote this and I wrote some of that and I wrote that. And I just watched it as a movie, and I just was knocked out by it. It's just a magnificent piece of art. It's the way I describe Hunchback.
Was it a skill to gain that, to where you can watch something and disassociate what you did for the movie? Like, I feel like if I was any part of writing a movie, I'd want to point out every single time that I wrote that line right there. I did it.
Well,
I wrote this line.
I'll tell you. You know how I didn't remember you? Oftentimes in my movies, I don't remember if I wrote that line or somebody else did. But, so many people want to find somebody associated with the movie and give me credit for everything. And so I spent, like when I started to understand that there were fans of these movies out there, and I started to interact with them, and they'd like, Tab, you just did it. I was like, whoa. I was a part of a 300 man and woman team. I did my part, but I am not responsible for the entire movie. I mean, but still, that it's just like they want to cling and say they want to give thanks to somebody. So for the longest time, I would pass those thanks on to everybody else associated with it. Now I just I'm too tired. I can't do it. Yeah. Okay, give it to me. Just give it to me. I'll take it.
I did. You're right. I did everything.
Yes.
Actually, you should be giving me more. Everyone in line.
Yeah.
Start
By the way, did
me.
you see Star Wars? I did that too. But
I did that too. What else do you guys like? What else do you guys like? I did all that stuff.
But they need to say those things. They want to say those things because that is their way of saying your work and the work of all the people who worked on that movie meant something to me, So I don't try to edit them anymore and say, I just say, bring it on. I'm so happy for that movie meant something to you. Can I sign you a poster? Boom. Yeah.
It's something I like about I was not a big con person. Actually, the one I went to, my girlfriend got us tickets for my birthday. That's why I even went to that one. And it was really the first one I ever went to. And it was a really cool experience that you get to see some of these people that you never think you'd have interactions with, right? And that's what you're talking about. Like, they want to thank somebody. And the reason they're thanking you is there's 300 other people. When are they ever going to talk to any of those other 300 people? Like, they need to tell you how much they're thankful for that movie if it meant so much to them, because there might not be another opportunity to thank anybody else. And so they go to you and say, thank you so much.
And that's how I felt when I first came to USC Film School. You grew up, in a small town in Washington State, small town back in the day. And, I had all these interests, monster magazines, movies, monster movies in general, like that I could not talk to anybody about. I mean, it just stayed inside, like I couldn't share. Oh, look at this great, how they made the Phantom of the Opera. Lon Chaney he did his own makeup, man. Can you imagine? Like, I didn't have anybody to share that stuff with. So when I hit film school, and suddenly I went from, I got a niche passion here to now it's 24/7. I'm surrounded by people who love movies, who love film, who love to have conversations about all the little stupid shit I loved growing up. I was like a kid in a candy store, man. So I understand that need to share your feelings, those emotions, like the ones that came up as they watched the 4 movies I worked on. So I just I enjoy going. So it's a lot of fun. The weekend's a lot of fun. It truly is.
Yeah, meeting people that are appreciative of your work and people that share the same interests it's got to be fun, whether you remember them or not.
And it's so funny. Once in a while, somebody they'll see, and like the posters hanging and screenwriter time and and then they'll look at me and they'll just be shaking, and I'll have to remind them, I'm just the writer. You don't have to be nervous.
But if it means so much to them, you're meeting the writer. That's like unbelievable.
And they come forward, and then by the end, we're all laughing and taking selfies, and it's a lot of fun. And that is, to me, it's like my way of sort of giving back. And that started during the pandemic, by the way, because, I really wasn't aware, to be honest. I was not aware of the impact that those 4 movies that I wrote for Disney had on a generation of kids growing up. And it kind of became, I have a parent, I had a buddy, I still have a buddy, who owned a film studio over on Kona, on the Big Island. And he, invited me over. They were workshopping some stuff. Come over, and help work on this project, and I'll pay you, and it'll be great, and we'll have a good time. Come over for a couple of weeks. And I said, okay, come and boom, go over there. And in Kona, they have a film school, and the director of that film school found out I was working with David in his studio, and they used that studio's screening room. So he reached out to David and said, do you think Tab would mind, screening Gorillas in the Mist for my students? And David asked me. I said, no, I haven't seen. That's another movie I hadn't seen in forever, right? So the night of the screening, there's like 25, mid-20-year-olds, guys and girls sitting in the audience, watch the movie. Go up on stage, moderators there, Q&A about Gorillas in the Mist. And it's very kind of sedate, very respectable, and a few questions, and the gorillas and this and that. But, you're talking about a movie that was made before most of them were born. I mean, before any of them were born.
88, right?
Yeah.
Is around when that was? Yeah.
So, we're almost at the end of the Q&A. And, went on for like 15 minutes. And the moderator said, "Oh, by the way, you may not know this, but Tab also wrote Hunchback of Notre Dame, Tarzan, Atlantis, Dude, you should have seen that. It was like cattle prods had hit under their seats. I mean, it just went nuts in there. Literally nuts. And I was like so taken aback by that. And at the end, they were all lined up. They had to, there was like 20 deep. They were lined up to meet me, shake my hand. Wait till I tell my mom I met you. You don't understand that movie. And then that was when I started to really like, wow, the power of these movies was really, I kind of missed that. And then concurrently, like a year later, the pandemic hits. And this young woman, Tammy Tucker is her name. She reached out to me. She has a YouTube Disney channel. She likes to interview behind the scenes Disney people.
Yeah.
Tab, would you come on and talk about Atlantis, the Lost Empire? I hadn't talked about that movie in 20 years. To me, that movie was a flop. It was considered not successful in terms of what Disney,
what they were doing in the 90s
success
and
in
stuff.
terms of their animated movies. So here I am thinking for 20 years, I probably wrote a Disney animated flop. I love the film. Don't get me wrong. We all worked so hard on it, but when it came out, it just did not do well for any number of reasons, by the way. So I was like, sure, I'll talk about that. So I go on and do this 20-minute thing with her about Atlantis, the Lost Empire. At the end of it, she goes, I don't think you realize how many fans of this movie are out there. I'm like, really? Really? She said, oh my God. So she directs me to this Facebook page, Atlantis, the Lost Empire, posting 30,000 people.
Yep. It became a cult classic. A lot of those movies did.
No clue.
What the internet can do for stuff like those types of movies that weren't, you see it all the time now. These movies from the 90s, the 80s, even the early 2000s that didn't have box office success or whatever you wanted, however they wanted to measure success then.
Yeah.
But a lot of, in my generation, I was in the single digits when those movies came out, but I've seen all of them.
Sure.
I've seen all of them multiple times. I remember watching Atlantis in school on like substitute teacher days. That was the go-to movie that we would always watch, was that one. I out of all those movies, I've probably seen Tarzan the most. I remember reenacting the movie with my friends. So you don't realize it because at the time it's like, oh, the box office this, the box office that. But now that you can actually get these communities together and reminisce over this type of stuff that we enjoyed as kids, like it builds a whole new fan base. And it's a similar story, especially when I meet a lot of these people at the Comic-Cons and stuff, that you see, like, when I did this movie, nothing happened. I was the lead voice actor in this movie and nothing happened. But then all of a sudden, all these people came out and they're so excited to meet me, and I never realized it. And I think it's just because the term of success has kind of changed from box office success to who's actually seeing this movie, who's actually a fan of this movie, and who would want to, learn more about it. Like, who wants to see more of what I do and stuff like that. So I could see where that comes from and why it happens in the pandemic, because in the pandemic, there's not much to do.
You're
watch
exactly
this movie
right.
I watched when I was young.
You're exactly right. So what I did, when I saw that there was a fan base out there, on that Atlantis fan page, I made a post, and I posted a picture of this, which is a cell from the movie. It's the submarine about to be devoured by the Leviathan.
Yep.
I said, hi, my name is Tab Murray. I wrote Atlantis, and all I got is this crummy cell. As a joke. I just said it as a joke,
And everyone's like, I'll take it from you.
No, it just exploded, dude. Exploded. Like, people were like, what the? What? Like, so as a result, I started to give away posters. I gave away thousands of posters through the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I would just go into people's Messenger. Hi, I'm Tab. Can I send you some free posters? And they just go out of their minds.
Just light up. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. And I wanted something to be really free, not just, but if you say, yeah, you guys pay for postage no, I this is really free. You know how you hear such shit's free and it's not? This is totally free on me. I'll send you some signed posters. All I need is your address. I sent hundreds all over the world, dude.
And that's how you're going to build a fan base. That's how you're going to build the fan base that wants to come see you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's also everyone that says yes, you know they're a fan of the work, right?
Well, exactly. And only one person said no. And then they came back around and said,
okay, I'll take it. Yeah. Okay, it's actually pretty cool. I'll take that.
I did it because I was fucking bored, too, during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then this gave me something to do. It gave me to connect with fans, and then I ran a couple of Q&As through the Facebook group, so people would, like with their questions. And again, it goes back to my own nerdiness growing up. If I would have been able to talk to somebody that created a movie I loved, I would have just been out of my mind, or had anything to do with the movies I loved as a kid. I'd jump at that chance too. So anyway.
I do understand. I talk to people about talking to people like you and stuff. I understand the platform I have where I could talk to really cool people. And I do understand not a lot of people get that opportunity. I actually, when we first started this show, we started it in the end of 2020, I think it was.
Oh, is that right?
Might have been early 2021.
Yeah.
But I've been doing radio interviews for college radio and stuff for years and years and years. And I started doing college radio in 2013. And that's how I started doing the interviews and stuff. Actually, I started doing the interviews because I was a journalism major and I would interview sports people. We talked a little bit about sports earlier and stuff like that. And then it kind of moved into, I got, my sister was the GM of the radio station at New Haven where we both went to college. She was a year above me. And anytime they got somebody coming in, I would interview them. And one day, before I was even on the radio or anything, because I was never someone to get too starstruck ever in my life. I like meeting people. I like having conversations. I like seeing how, it's interesting to me. So the radio station brought in Rev Run to have an interview, and everyone was too scared to talk to Rev Run. He's a big name. It's Run DMC, and they're in New Haven, so it's right by New York, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So my sister goes, would you want to jump on the air and interview him? And I'm like, hell yeah, I want to interview Rev Run. That's amazing. So I went in and did like a 7-minute interview with Rev Run, and I kind of became the person they would go to. Jalen Rose came in. I'm the one that's interviewing him. Anybody that would come in, I'd go interview.
Nice.
And then I started my own show where I had people coming on and started interviewing all these other people and stuff like that. And it continued on to this podcast where now I have conversations and interview. But I understand that's not a platform everybody has. Like, they go to these Comic-Cons because you get the opportunity to actually interact with these people. And it's even I go to them and I have that where I talk to people. I still like going to them because just talking to these people, getting to understand their mindset. And I try to go in with a little bit of okay, I was out here just talking about Atlantis with this guy in front of me for 45 minutes. Maybe I should bring up a different movie or think of something else. I just watched him talk about this for 45 minutes. I'm sure he doesn't want to start a new conversation about it as well. But it's just so interesting to me being able to talk and see what the process is and see what other things people like. One big thing about this show, I like talking about things outside of maybe screenwriting that you do or something like that. Because I think it's just interesting. I think it's interesting to everyone looks at these people as this is what they do and they don't do anything else. But it's like everyone has other there's other hobbies.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, Chris, when I got out of high school, I went to my first year of college. I thought I wanted to be a forest ranger. That's where I was headed.
Very different. Very different
right.
path.
I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and so I grew up close to nature. My dad took us camping and backpacking, and I grew up fishing, and I love the outdoors. I love mountains, and that part of me is such a passion. The wilderness and outdoors, and it actually, it's made it into, that passion is translated to things I've written, and so, no, I spend a lot of time still hiking and getting outside and going on adventures. I just love it. Writing Gorillas in the Mist was a great turning point in my career. But the best part of it was that I got to go to Rwanda, hike into the Virunga Mountains, and sit with these amazing, amazing animals. I would have traded that for anything else to do with the movie, So it was a great experience. So I looked.
I'm sure you're in the PNW as well, which I've lived in a lot of places in my life, and I'm in Dallas, Texas now. I've lived in Connecticut, Indianapolis. I'm from New York, lived in Boston.
Yeah.
My favorite place, nature-wise, and just how it was Spokane, Washington. It's so beautiful.
Oh yeah,
There's
yeah,
so
yeah.
much to do outdoors. I miss it every day. I really do, especially right now. Especially now when it's snowing. I got into snow sports while I was out there. Like
Oh yeah.
now, I really miss it.
So
But
did
um,
you live in Spokane?
I went to Gonzaga for 2
Oh, you
years. I
went
got
to
my master's
Gonzaga,
there.
of course. Okay.
Yes, and my girlfriend went to the law school. She was there for 3 years. I was there
Okay.
from 2020 until about 2022, and then I got a job in Connecticut. Packed up my stuff, went over to Connecticut. She joined me a year later. Then I got a different job, and she got a different job. We moved to Indianapolis,
Oh
lived
my
there for a
gosh.
few months, and then she works for a law firm. We moved down to Dallas. She works for the law firm there. And now, like I said before, I work for the UFL. So we've been all over.
You're a
We've
bit
been all
nomadic couple there. That's wild.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. Maybe 2 years
Yeah.
that all this happens. And
Wow.
before that, I lived in Boston, and I went to. I got my undergraduate in New Haven, University of New Haven. So I was in New
Uh-huh.
Haven from New York. Lived in Boston. I did a year down in Gainesville, Florida. Like I've been almost everywhere to live. So
Wow, that's
in
awesome.
my
though.
31
To
years.
me, I think that's really shines a light on why I love to travel because I do too. I love to travel. You know, I spend some time in LA. I spend time in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I spend time in the PNW. And it's not because I have to move there for work. I just go there because I'm a writer. I could do it just about
Yeah.
anywhere. So I have
Yeah.
favorite places in Montana. I just go every year. I'm always on the road, it seems like, living sort of a nomadic lifestyle. 2 months here, 3 months here, 2 months there, 5 months here, whatever. It's just, I love it. It's great.
I do tell people like that ask me about it. I'm like, you should travel. You should check out things. Like my favorite things that I think I've done in my entire life was the couple of trips from New York to Spokane and Spokane to wherever, Connecticut, New York, whatever. I drove a couple times.
Oh, that's
It's
great.
because you get to see so much of the country. Like before that, I never went out west before I went to Gonzaga. So the furthest west I ever went was Missouri.
Oh, okay.
And so I got to see deserts. I got to see real mountains, which you don't see on the East Coast. These are real mountains.
You
And
have
just get to
hills
see
on the
so
East
much
Coast.
nature.
Yes.
Yeah, we have hills. There's hills over there. So I never did snow sports right before I was out in Spokane. So I come back and I'm in Connecticut and I'm going on a ski trip with my friends way up in New York, up past Buffalo. And I'm driving out there and I'm running low on gas and I'm like, all right, it says I have about 20 minutes. I'll get to the base. I have to be near the base. Like then you go up because in the Pacific Northwest, you get to the base, then it's an hour up. It's a 2 hour drive, an hour there, an hour up.
You're just
I think it was like maybe it was 40 minutes, whatever. It's I have 40 minutes left in my drive before I'm there. I have to be near the base. There's going to be a gas station at the base. So I just continue on. Before I eventually stopped at this one gas station. I'm like, where the heck is the base? So I get gas and I'm still going. I'm like, I still haven't reached the base. And it says I'm 2 minutes away and I look, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is where we start. We're on the ground and we go up to the top of the hill and we go down the hill. We don't go up the mountain.
Okay.
But I was like, all right. I did not put two and two together because the only time I ever went was out west. And you go, like I said, we would drive into Idaho. We drive an hour in Idaho
Yeah.
to Schweitzer Mountain. And then we drive an
Schweitzer.
hour up
I've been
Schweitzer
there.
Mountain.
I've been Schweitzer.
And then that's where you go. That's where you do it all. So I was so confused. I'm like, oh no, this is it. This is where we start. Okay,
That is
I get it
hysterical.
now.
Well, I went.
But-
My first year of college was at WSU, just south of Spokane.
Yeah.
So
Yep, I've been there.
yeah. So Pullman. That's and it was the greatest year of college of my life, and I mean because I was away from home and I was I'm making new friends and we just partied our asses up. It was just like breakout, like Thin Lizzy. It's a breakout.
Yeah,
It was so much fun. And I had fun at USC for different reasons that I mentioned before, because I could speak a language that, finally that, no one else
people
could.
understood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but I had such a good time that first year at college. And it kind of broke my heart because I also knew, I had an epiphany that being a forest ranger was not meant for me. I mean, I thought it was all this passion growing up in the outdoors, and I just realized that I had this quiet quiet dream that I suddenly, I allowed to give a voice to, and that
Yep.
dream overwhelmed me and overwhelmed any desire I had to become a forest ranger, any of that. And that was to go get into the movie business. So it,
And it worked out too.
yeah, well, and I often tell people, like I try to, I'm open to talking to young wannabe writers, screenwriters, talking about things and giving them advice. And I teach an online screenwriting course as well and things like that. But I often tell them, one of the most powerful things that anyone starting off in life and trying to follow their passion or their dreams can understand about themselves, in addition to that's what I want, I'm going to work hard, that's what I'm going for, is to know what's not meant for you. That is just as equally powerful as knowing and deciding this is what I want, that's what's meant for me, I'm going to go for it. Because, it's the minute and it's not about, I'm going to give up my dream. It's not that at all. When you understand that something isn't meant for you, what it does is it opens the door for the dream you're supposed to be chasing.
Yes.
In my opinion.
It's one of the biggest skills you can have is realizing when something's either not meant for you or it's not your lane.
Yeah.
And when it is your lane. And it is something a lot of people struggle with, which you could tell. You could see, even, let's just stick with what we're on in podcasting. Some people are very, very good at it.
Yep.
And some people do it because it's like a platform they can have. And you could tell the difference. I was in the same boat. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. That was the dream, was to be a sports broadcaster.
Yep.
And I wasn't terrible at it or anything, but it definitely wasn't for me. Like, I have a problem pronouncing people's names. Like, that's not good for a sports broadcaster. You can't pronounce names. But I realized it wasn't for me. I've done it a couple times. I've done it successfully. I did it for even Gonzaga, even as late as Gonzaga in 2020 to 2022. But it just was, my lane was being a videographer and doing stuff like this. Like, that's where I excelled the most. And
the truth is, you're still in the sports world. So
yes.
Your love of sports was, your dream was to be a sportscaster, because that would have encapsulated,
sports was
my
it.
love of everything about sports and so that's exactly kind of the weird point, because when I turned my back on being a forest ranger and went in to make movies, I mean, if you look at my filmography, much of what I would have done as a ranger, like riding the rain, like being out in the wilderness, I've written stories. I mean, you look at Tarzan, you look at Last of the Dogmen, a movie I got to write and direct, all about my love of the outdoors and Native American culture and things like that. So there's other ways to skin a cat when it comes to, I love this world, how can I be a part of it? Right?
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt too.
Yeah.
And I tried a lot of different avenues, and then once I realized sports videography, which is where what I'm really in, when I even had it, went out of the lane. When I went to Gonzaga originally, I went to be a baseball coach. I was coaching baseball before that in Boston. I was going to be a GA, all that stuff. And then I got back into video again, and I'm like, no, this is where I'm at. Like, I'm good at it. I enjoy it. This is where I should be. And that's where I got my degree, and that's what I do now. And I've been doing it since. And I'm happy that even though I skid off the path a little bit, I was able to ride back on top of it and continue doing it. So it really is a skill to know.
Good on you, pal.
It's skill.
We're lucky because we get to go to work every day and do something we love and we're passionate about. And I think that overrides whatever the specific thing you think is meant for you. Because maybe waking up, you go down the path and you chase a dream, and maybe waking up every day and you're miserable and this sucks is an indication you might be on the
you're not in it. Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe. Because that's the thing. It's you got to have fun with and fun in life. And
and you gotta have fun with what you're doing. Like, I've talked to so many people when they're like, I hate what I do for work. I'm like, well, do you find any joy in it? Like, no. It's like, what are you doing? Like, I get sometimes you just need a job and circumstances, right?
Well,
circumstances,
of course.
But find the thing you're passionate about and even just start on your own. I mean, whatever you have to do, like you gotta find something you like, because this is what you're gonna do for the rest of your life.
I have a list of shitty jobs I did on my way to trying to figure out if I was going to make it in Hollywood or not. So, that just goes with the territory.
Yeah.
And I understand
The
having a
grind.
shitty job at 35 is different than having a shitty job at 22 when you have a dream,
Yeah.
So I understand
100%.
that, but yeah, it's one of the worst or one of the downtime, well, worst that I felt like, and I never felt like, I got to give this up and do something else, but I ran out of money in LA. I had to drop out of USC. It was too expensive. I was trying to write a scripts and then my mom called one day and said, "Why don't you just come home for a year? Your old job at Safeway." I talked to the manager. "You can have it back." So I'm like, okay, I guess, like it was the worst thing to go back into my bedroom that I grew up in and work night crew at a Safeway with a bunch of lifers sitting around going, "What do you want to do again?" "Well, I want to make movies." "Yeah, right, kids."
Yeah.
Like that, you got to just be able to get through the low points. And
Yeah.
sometimes, I tell people, sometimes you're the only one carrying the torch for your dream, for yourself. A lot of people need a lot of support, or people need to believe in me, and I feel, like they understand what I want. Sometimes it's a lonely road, pal. You just carry that torch for yourself, and you just like, okay, I'm out here in the middle of fucking nowhere. No
Yeah.
one's around to support me I don't feel supported by anybody, but I'm still, that's what I want, and I got to go forward and do it. So anyway.
And that's one of the things about success, people that find success or successful people, is you see the success, but you don't see getting to that success. You don't
Well,
see what people have gone through most of the time. And that's why people sometimes can't get over that hump of like, why can't this happen to me? It's like, well, this is
sure.
what happens to everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone goes broke. Everyone has to take that job at the Safeway. Mine was a Home Depot.
Well, there
Like
you go.
everybody has to take that job at some point, and it's just kind of what you have to do to really get to the dream that you're trying to get to. So I
Well, and
think it is
that's
something that's
actually
great.
very accurate in so many ways because I talk to a lot of people. I want to be a screenwriter in Hollywood. I want to write movies. I said, okay, are you willing to move to LA? Well, no, I live in. Okay, well, there you go. Right.
And there's number
Not that
one.
you have to move to LA, but it's a test. What are you willing to do to get what you want?
Yeah.
I'm willing to do anything. I'm stripped bare. Tell me where to go. Tell me what to do. Tell me what shitty job to get. I'm in. I'm very few people are that committed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are sort of little roadblocks in place that they can't get around or won't consider. I want this, but
And
I won't consider doing this to get it. Well,
yeah,
then
and you see
it's,
those people all the time. I see those people all the time. I really want to do this. Well, here's a contact. Have you reached out to them? Well, no, I haven't reached out to them. It's like, well, then you don't really want it. Like, if
well,
I got a
exactly.
contact, they would have been
Exactly.
contacted before it even reached my inbox. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta same with
Uh,
that. Are you willing to move to LA where everyone you're gonna meet can help you? Oh no, okay. Well,
yeah.
then how big is that dream really? Like,
Well,
you
exactly.
gotta buckle down.
Well, and so to that point, I came from a small town, and this was part of what I was like, okay, I knew what being a forest ranger would look like eventually because I love the mountain. I love there was so much about the idea of it, the romanticized idea of it that I loved. But when it came to, okay, I'm going to go pursue this because this is what I really want. I didn't, I didn't know anybody in LA. I got on a plane at 19 and I flew south because I got accepted into USC Film School. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have contacts here. Nothing. And I never thought of it as like that was a kind of special. That I tell that story to people and they're like, wow, wow, how did you do that? How did I do it? I guess I was just naive. I guess I thought everybody pursued their dreams just like doing the same shit I'm doing, like
Yeah,
go for it, So it never
yeah.
occurred to me that people, sort of false start or don't even, or have a dream and don't pursue it. And I've thought about that a lot too. And I think some of it is I have to attribute to my parents because I'll never forget calling them up at WSU saying, this isn't working out over here for me, this forest ranger thing. And well, what do you want to do? They're both on the line. And I said, well, I think I want to go to Hollywood and make movies. Like dead silence. I could have said, I want to go to Mars and start my own commune. Like that's how foreign that idea was to them, right?
Yeah.
But to their credit, and I do credit my parents a lot for this, because I think well-meaning parents in a moment like that might try to talk their son or daughter out of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
They might say, well, listen, why don't you finish what you started at WSU? And if you still feel strongly about that when you graduate and have a degree and have security, then maybe you can. My parents were like, we don't know fuck all about what you're anything to do with that. But if that's what you want, we'll support you. We're behind you. We follow that dream. Go for it. So I've thought about that moment a lot, because I know personally people that have been talked out of following their dream by well-meaning parents, because those parents are just scared for them. They're just afraid for them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I do.
I consider myself very lucky in that moment that I had parents that were like, I think probably they're thinking, don't fucking come home, dude. Yeah, go to Hollywood. You're out of here.
Trust me, I've lived in how many different states.
They're great, but they in that moment, I really am grateful to them for just not trying to talk me out of doing it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I've lived in how many different states. I mean, I do sports video and social media, and I run a podcast. Like I had the same thing. My parents were extremely supportive, even when things were not working out. Like in my mid-20s, and they weren't working for a good amount, but still I would shoot a documentary, need a camera person. My mom drives up to Boston. Like they're super supportive and all that. And they're willing to help wherever it is. Well, I do feel like we didn't even get into we just get to the tip of the iceberg and all this.
It was a great
chat. We're gonna have to have you back on at some point to get back into the weeds of things. But I do appreciate you taking time and coming out here, talking a little bit about everything.
No. And listen, I appreciate you, even though I forgotten that I'd met you. I appreciate you reaching out to me.
Okay. Great. Hey, as long as you remember at least a little bit next time, then we're all
I
good.
will. Now you're on the radar. You're on the map, pal.
Almost 60 minutes. Almost 60 minutes. I'm on the radar.
There
now.
you go.
Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank Tab Murphy for joining us. I want to thank you guys all for being here. Remember, you can get a 30-day free trial of I almost said the Curiosity Box. You can get a 30-day free trial of Audible at audibletrial.com/Schnabel Studios. That's SCHNABEL Studios. Today, get a 30-day free trial and get listening to your favorite book, Get Lost in the Story. That's what I do. I love it. Go do it yourself. You can also go get yourself a Curiosity Box. I have one behind me if you're watching. I'm wearing the shirt, which I don't think I said in the beginning. This shirt is from the Curiosity Box, something you can get in the Curiosity Box. Shirts, cards, all this fun stuff. Go to the-curiosity-box.pxf.io/Schnabel Studios today and grab your Curiosity Box. That's the-curiosity-box.pxf.io/Schnabel Studios and get your Curiosity Box. Again, check out schnabelstudios.com. See the videos we do. You have a video that you want to get done, go get a quote. You can also find Mad Props and Sketching Up. And Dak Prescott is mic'd up right there on Schnabel Studios or youtube.com/Schnabel Studios. Follow us on social media, Schnabel Studios, everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can subscribe to us. You can also follow this podcast at Mad Props Pod on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you guys so much again for being here. We really appreciate you coming in. We hope to see you next time. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring everybody you know in to watch Mad Props. And make sure you catch some old episodes. Again, Andy Smith last episode, 2 episodes before that, we had Chris Standiford, or 2 episodes before that, we had Matt Hill. Before that was Chris Standiford. Some really good episodes are going off so far in 2025. You don't want to miss a thing. All right, thank you guys so much. We will see you next time. This has been Mad Props. Peace out.